Welcome to Design by Taj. Today I'm building a luxury American black walnut table, completely by hand, right here in the UK in my small workshop, which is based out of my shed. Stick around and see how I made this slab transform into a one-of-a-kind centerpiece with resin, careful craftsmanship and a lot of sanding. Here we're starting the table with a little bit of chisel work where I remove a lot of the debris and from the cracks, widen it so I can make enough space to add the resin. So I'm not going to bore you with the rest of my talking. I'm going to speed up the video so you can see this and join me in the next part. This is quite a time-consuming process. I spent several hours widening the crack and preparing this in order to fill it with resin. So I've used a simple chisel and a little bit of a tool which I can grab some of the debris out of the cracks, which will then help me prepare to add in the resin, which will be the next part of this video. Here's a closer look. I'm still using the chisel and the hand tool in order to widen these cracks. These naturally occurred cracks may give a very characteristic look to the table, and I wanted to keep that all the way through. So a simple area here is to prep it, remove these debris out of the cracks, and then which will allow me to add in the resin with a widened gap and still achieve the natural look which I wanted to achieve. Little by little I'm still removing these cracks. This was quite a time-consuming process, but it was also a very elegant process in the sense where I did not want to remove too much from the table. I wanted to still keep that natural feel and get and achieve what you'll see once I sand the table and finish the table. I will get the natural look overall. This American Black Walnut is the starting point. Known for its rich grain and deep tones, it's one of my favourite hardwoods to work with. Here I'm just spending some time sanding those cracks ever so slightly, again not to change any of the natural cracks that have occurred, just to soften it, and also when you get the finished look, those cracks will look as natural as possible and also smooth to the touch. I vacuumed those areas to make sure it's dust free and finally get it ready to prepare for the resin pour. Here I am now preparing to pour the resin. I'll be using the Let's Resin epoxy resin 1:1 ratio. I spend a couple of minutes mixing it, and I'll be using a syringe and a small little cup to fill these cracks. And again, I want to keep this as natural as possible, but also create a nice contrast between the grain and the resin. I'm now at a point where I realised some of those cracks, once I had filled the resin, needed a little bit more work. So I spent some time outside of this video, it's not in the recording, where I had chipped out some of the resin, looked at some of the other cracks that needed filling, and here you can see there's some tiny pinholes once I had finished the table, and it required a little bit more filling. So I widened these cracks, actually I marked them across the table, and I spent some time filling those. And also on the edge of the table you'll see there's quite a big crack there, and I'll also be filling that with resin. So I'm not going to bore you with the sanding process. I went through the grits from 80 all the way up to 320, and now the table is prepped and ready to apply the final finish in order to give it the vibrant look that it needs. Sanding is probably one of the most important parts of any table, as this will make it or break the finish. Here you can see the table is smooth, looking clear. All those gaps and holes are now filled, and now I'll be using Odies oil to finally sand it off with a sanding machine. It's not a sanding machine, it's an orbital polisher. So I'll be using that to give it the final touches it needs. As you can see, both sides are buffed and polished on, and the table's vibrant colour brown has come through. So this was just after I finished all the polishing and brought the table back in overnight. As you can see, it's got its final colour come through, it's nice and dry, and I'll be adding the legs on. I didn't record this part, but you'll see the final finish next, and you can see the table's nicely finished and it's got its final look. Now you can wait to see the final review. Here it is, a custom handmade American Black Walnut table, built from start to finish with care and precision, no templates, no shortcuts, just craftsmanship. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more handmade woodworking and resin creations. You can check out more of my work or order one of your own pieces. There's links in the description to my Instagram page where I post more content as well. Thank you for watching.